Hello, kids. This is Pastor Roger, and we thought it'd be nice to have a different voice on the recording. This is a story about Jesus being condemned to death. Friday morning was gray and cold and wet. Even before the city woke up, the priests and soldiers led Jesus to the palace of the Roman governor. "Pontius Pilate," the high priest cried, "come out and judge this man, this Jesus of Nazareth. He is guilty of crimes deserving death." The governor came out with a sneer on his face. He didn't like us Jews very much. He sat down in a big chair and said, "It's raining. Hurry up and tell me why you think he should die." "For one," the high priest said, "he tells people not to pay taxes to the emperor. For another, he says that he is a king, Christ the king." Pontius Pilate leaned forward to take the measure of this criminal. He gazed at a thin man with steadfast eyes and raindrops on his hair. The man was shivering in the cold. His face was bruised. The ropes cut into his skin. But he looked back at the Roman with no rage nor hate, just patience and a perfect knowing. Pilate said, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." Pilate squinted more closely at Jesus. Then he sat back and waved his hand to shoo the priests and the soldiers away. "Go home," he said. "I don't find any fault in the man." The chief priest climbed halfway up the governor's steps and said, "Look harder, sir. He stirs up the citizens. He causes riots against your government." More and more people were gathering now. The high priest turned to them and cried, "You know the evil of Jesus, don't you?" "He's a sly one," the people shouted. "Disloyal." "Right, he breaks the laws of Moses and of Rome." "You see," the high priest said to Pilate, "he's a rebel, a dangerous man." Pilate said to Jesus, "How do you answer these charges?" Jesus stayed silent. Pilate said, "Have you nothing to say for yourself?" "Nothing." Jesus stood like a white column, calm and kind. Okay, he said to the chief priests and the crowds. "I know what I'm going to do. I will release one prisoner and I'll let you choose which one. Should I release the murderer named Barabbas, or shall I release Jesus, the King of the Jews?" It was a trick, and I liked it. Barabbas was wicked. He truly belonged in jail. Surely no one would want him free in the streets. They had to pick Jesus. Pontius Pilate stood up to address the entire crowd. It was amazing how many people had come out in the drizzling rain. "Which man," he called out, "do you choose?" Immediately the people shouted, "Give us Barabbas!" Pilate was shocked. "Then what should I do with Jesus of Nazareth?" he cried. Louder than ever, the huge crowd thundered, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Why? What evil has he done? The high priest now stood equal to Pilate. By our law he ought to die, because he called himself the Son of God. Pilate cried, "Your laws are not my laws. Deal with him yourselves." Then the high priest delivered his final threat. "If you release this man, you are not a friend of Caesar. Anyone who makes himself king is an enemy of the real king, Caesar." Pontius Pilate looked scared. 1,000 people were ready to riot, screaming, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" So the Roman governor sat down and shrugged his shoulders. He released the evil Barabbas. Jesus he ordered to be whipped and then to be crucified.